Right. So our surprise guest is Diane Severino, and many of you have met her and had brief conversations with her in passing. Today is a really special occasion because she's going to tell a story and talk about her background and meeting Ron and the original studio, and just really give us a full picture of um, what it was like in 1972 and what it was like in when she and Michael took over the studio and Ron moved to Texas, and some of the chapters in between. And so, welcome, Diane. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Gary. I'm delighted to be here and with everybody else.
Uh, I will start out just with your background. So, just if you could tell us a little bit about your growing up in New York and how you got into the dance world, and um, tell us about that.
Okay, I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. That's a borough. And I lived there until I went off to get married. So my entire upbringing was in Brooklyn. Uh, I loved it there. We lived quite close to the ocean, Coney Island. And so I had sort of a beachy city upbringing. And my background is in the dance world. The reason I started dancing at 7 years old was that my mother noticed that my feet didn't look right. They were extremely flat as a pancake. So she took us to the family doctor. And he took one look at my feet and said, oh boy, is her feet flat. It was so flat that it looks like, even to this day, like I have two ankle bones, one above where the arch should be, and then the normal place for the ankle bone. My mom says, what do we do? Well, we can do strengthening exercises. There's a whole thing. But I suggest, my doctor said, Dr. Orenstein, you should just give her dance lessons. That's the best thing she could do for her feet. So my mother took me to the dance studio that was in the neighborhood, and it was called Marjorie Mazia's School of Dance. Who is Marjorie Mazia? I was so fortunate. Marjorie Mazia was with the Martha Graham Dance Company. She joined the company in 1936 and danced with Martha Graham for 12 years. Martha credited her as her assistant. She stayed close to Martha her entire life. And my dance training, because it was so impeccable, made me the future professional dancer I became. I studied with Marjorie from 7 until I went, and moved. Marjorie Mazia, not only was she an incredible modern dancer with the Graham technique in the company, but she was married to Woody Guthrie. Who was he? I know you're much younger in the audience that's listening to me. Woody Guthrie was a great American folk singer. He wrote the song, This Land Is Your Land, This Land Is My Land. It's almost a national anthem, almost up there. So my background in meeting all of these wonderful people, Marjorie also, it wasn't like a tap, ballet, and acrobatic school. There was no, recitals or costumes. It was just twice, 3 times a year, open school where the parents could come and just watch what a class was like. So I had impeccable training, which I attribute not only to working the Pilates work with Ron all these years, but with great technique, which made me pretty much injury-free, which is amazing. You've all seen me move. And so, yeah, I attribute that to Marjorie and the extraordinary training I had because of her. Yeah.
And then Diane, tell us just about your move from New York to Los Angeles. I think that was because of a marriage and
Yes.
music career.
Yes. Frank Severino, my husband, we met in New York City. He was a professional jazz musician. went to a venue, the Village Gate, to watch a singer, Carmen McRae, perform. He was the drummer in her band and very well respected jazz musician. He fell in love with me at first sight, and then he wooed me and I fell in love with him. We got married in 1967. That was called the Summer of Love, honey. Mm-hmm. And he was going to relocate the Carmen and McRae and Frankie. They were stationed in New York. Stationed sounds like the army in a way it is, and they were relocating here to California. So Frankie and I got married out here and raised our one son Randy here. I'm in the same house that we bought in 1969. I do put down roots, which is unusual for California. They usually move around a lot. Not me. I love my little house. This is it. I'm sitting in my, this used to be my son's room, Randy. And now it's my library and where I do my mat work. There's no furniture here. What else? What else do you want to know?
Tell us how you met Ron. Tell us how you met Ron. Tell us that story.
Okay. So, I was a dance teacher. I never had a real job. So I've been teaching dance since I'm 14. Marjorie, I was on scholarship with her. And so I always taught like the kids classes. And when I moved out here, being a modern dancer and a jazz musician, we really needed to expand my dance classes because I relocated. I taught in New York for years. And so one of the girls in my class I said, anybody know any other dance studios in the vicinity, you know? And one gal said, I think there's a dance studio upstairs from my beauty parlor. The beauty parlor was Aida Gray, which was on Rodeo and Wilshire Boulevard. It was on Wilshire, but we give Rodeo first billing. So I got myself all nice and my resume. And I walked up the steps and went, oh my God, it's a Pilates studio. They have deep steps walking up, and then you open up, bam, there were all the machines and the equipment. And Ron was there and had my resume. And I introduced myself and told him I was a dancer and said, I thought you were a dance studio. I knew you work from the Ice Capades and from your work in Vegas with Darn Arden. And I know, you know, and I'm so happy to meet you. I'm happy to meet you, he says. And I said, I have my resume if you'd like to see it. And Ron takes my resume and he goes, Diane, oh my God, you went to Juilliard? Yes, I did. Studied with Martha Graham and Marjorie Mazia. And then still reading, you know, Jose Limon, Stuart Hode, Sophie Maslow, Jimmy Truitt. Yeah, these are all the names that Ron knew from the dance world. It's a very small community in New York. Bertram Ross, Helen McGehee, you know, Betty Jones, on and on and on. So he goes, oh my God, what a background in dance. Yes, I did, you know. And we just taught dance pretty much. And someone was coming in to do a session with Ron. I took my leave of him and went back home to the Valley. It was in LA. I lived in the Valley. It took me an hour to get home. A little while after that, the phone rang, and it's Ron. Ron, it was such a pleasure to meet you. Me too. Look, Ron says, I want to ask you something. Yes, Ron, would you like to do this work? Would you like to learn this work? Because he knew I had no Pilates background. I said, yeah. And that's how I started. I showed up the next day, and Ron was not my teacher. We were farmed out, whatever word. I was handed to one of the teachers there. And that's how I started the work. Just started learning it. There were the exercises were attached to the ceiling. So my teacher at that point, it was a guy named Buddy Sperber. He took me through the work, you know. It was very similar in technique to the dance world, so I wasn't complete, and I was in very good shape. Of course, I was young, but I was in, really good dance shape. So the work, then they didn't give me anything like star or anything, it was just your classic beginning, workout. So I did that for 4 days and then I went on salary. That's it. We learned at the feet of everybody. Ron was in and out. He just, he had a good, we had good people. The way they broke me in was to give me every new person. So if I didn't know what I was, the next exercise, I just have to look up to the ceiling and say, we're going to do short spine next. So I wasn't really that precious. And since I had the background of being a teacher my entire life, I knew how to relate a movement to the student in front of me. Of course, it was all adults, but that's no biggie. My class is out here. What else you want to know?
Well, just give us more of a sense of how the studio is run. How many teachers were on the floor? Were there private sessions? Were there group classes? How often did Ron teach? What classes did he teach? Give us a sort of paint a picture of the studio for us.
All right, the studio, when I started, I think it was like 73, when I became, a teacher. There was no room for movement classes. That came later. So the studio is really a Pilates studio with all the equipment, the trap table, the ladder barrel, the little barrel, the in-between door gym. You know what that is. Yeah. Is that what they call it now?
Call it the Guillotine Tower.
They call it the guillotine.
Uh-huh.
All right, here then. And the machines, petty pole, etc. So we had all of the basic, the mat, which was the raised mat with the dowel to the back, So it was a classic Pilates studio. We didn't do group classes. It was all by appointment. And so we worked with each of the students individually. Ron took the major stars. And though we all rotated, we had a great clientele. I mean, it was the who's who of Hollywood, directors, producers, a lot of show folk. I mean, you had a real good ego because when I walked into the studio at 7:30, there was Catherine Ross and Ali McGraw and Candice Bergen. And, so everybody was there with no makeup, looking stunning, stunning. And they were all very disciplined. The arts world is disciplined. The actors and actresses always showed up on time. We had really, really good student base. So it was all one-on-one with the machine. Everybody went through the Ron Fletcher was the one that was on the ceiling, and there was also charts on the wall. And then we went through the 12 mat exercises that Ron has culled from the real mat work. So we encouraged them. Everybody had it, we introduced, we all changed the springs for them. I mean, we really handed them straps and, we were manually touching them back in the old days. So in short spine, we were really pulling everybody up and giving them cues and everything. We were very hands-on, was allowed. The mat work was printed in front of them on the mat. There was only one mat. And we encouraged them to really go through the 12 exercises that Ron had wanted. It was the hundreds, it was the roll up with the bar, it was leg circles, it was saw, it was rolling like a ball. It was concise, which, the mat work does work very well with the machines. And then we rotated them off the reformer to the other equipment, and they got a completely balanced Pilates program.
And tell us some of the stories about the stars. I know that, we several of you aren't familiar with some of the famous names, but Cher was one of the clients, and Barbra Streisand, Steven Spielberg.
Barbara, a little bit, not
yeah.
that much. Okay, Cher, yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, Catherine Ross, who was in the Ron Fletcher, Everybody is Beautiful book, as is Ali and Candice Bergen. They really came there 3 times a week. They were very, very dedicated. A lot of Samuel Goldwyn came. I was his first teacher there. He was the one that I had to. He was tall. He was like 6'3" or 4. So I had to, take him up into the short spine and everything. Yeah, he was great. He stayed and worked way up until, I even started working out with him privately in his house after a while. A lot of these clients did sort of, and Ron allowed that too. So I did a lot of private work concurrently with the studio, but many, many stars and names, endless.
Now, I heard a story, and I don't know if it's true, and I forget who I heard it from, but that the National Enquirer would sometimes have photographers sort of waiting outside the studio to photograph who was coming and going from the studio.
Oh yeah, we were up there with the beauties, and everybody wanted pictures of them. We had a back staircase.
Right.
Yeah. So we had, it was sort of the secret entrance. You go around the back past Aida Gray's and then up the back steps to where our studio was. So a lot of the stars knew about that. And they could also discreetly go down and sort of beat the paparazzi. And but it was interesting times. Yeah, we had our share of glamour there. Yeah. Rodeo was always rodeo. Oh yeah.
Hmm. And then when did Michael begin at the studio? When did Michael show
All
up?
right. So I was at the studio first.
Mm-hmm.
Michael was my friend through dance class. Our lives paralleled each other in New York. He was a Juilliard student too. He went to high school performing arts. I did not. I stayed in my Abraham Lincoln High School, where I had my own dance class there too. They gave me my own dance class in high school. I even got a medal for that, the Geo Dance Medicine medal. They made me the first one ever. And so Michael knew each other taking classes here. And then I got the job at Ron's. And he called me to ask if his friend Suzanne Charney, fabulous dancer, she was in Charity. She's the one with the ponytail, So it was his best friend from New York. And it's like, of course I know Suzanne Charney. Well, there's a waiting list. There was a waiting list to get into our studio. We were hot. And I said, of course I'll get Suzanne in. Are you kidding me? I have fun. I'm the one that does all the bookings. But yeah, when does she want to come? I'll go make room. And then I said, we were really very hot at that time, busy. And I said, hey, Michael, do you want to learn Pilates? We really need another teacher here. We're that busy. And Michael said, yeah. And the same thing, he showed up. I was not his teacher. Another teacher that was there taught Michael. And that's how I got Michael into the studio. Also, Carol Monaco was another friend of mine. And again, I needed to increase the teacher staff. And I asked Carol if she wanted to teach. She had dance training and ballet. And she said yes. So Carol Monaco and Michael were the people I brought into the studio to become teachers.
Mm-hmm. And then at what point did Ron move to Texas? Was that?
Well, he left the studio. He didn't move to Texas right away.
Okay.
Now, when you realize that Ron had the studio from 72, I came on at about 73-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 81-ish, Ron granted Michael and me and Carol Monaco to take the name over and become and keep it as it is. And we had another location. Rodeo was out of our ballpark financially. Do you know what I got paid? Now I was the manager at Ron Fletcher's when we were on Rodeo. I made $2.75 an hour. That was minimum wage. I still had to teach dance classes afterwards, and I sold Avon at the studio. Ron let me. And I also was a good baker. So at the holidays, I would take orders and bring in apple pie and pumpkin bread and white bread. So I supplemented my income that way because $2.75 was $2.75. And but it was a question originally. I went off on a tangent.
No, just wondering when Ron moved, he didn't go to Texas immediately. He was he was there for about 10 years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 10, right. So when you realize that the name kept going because of Michael and I, because a lot of our really important work was done I say important, in the 80s that kept the barn's legacy away, because Pilates was dying. Aerobics came in at the end of the 70s, which is pretty much, you would think they were so loyal to us, but no, they were all going to Jane Fonda and doing all of this stuff. It became the hot new thing. So the numbers started to dwindle down too. And it was, we were sort of, this is across the United States, because only 5 studios back in the day.
Right.
You know, there was even, and the New York people, you all know everybody, you know, Vermont, et cetera. But everybody was hanging on by a thread.
Yeah, the 5 studios were Joe's studio, the studio at Bendel's. Is that
Kathy Grant.
Kathy Grant?
And then there was Eve in Santa Fe.
Eve's Gentry in Santa Fe, and then you in Los Angeles.
And Alan Herdman in London, but he didn't count. Yeah. But we were all sort of, you know, on a thread there. But when Michael and I did take it over, I did a dance medicine symposium, because our studio, when Mike and I took it over, we had a dance rate for the professional dancers. So we were known in LA for rehabbing dancers. The dance medicine community knew about us, you know, and I was asked to pull together, and Pilates wasn't that well known, even in the dance world back in the 80s. You would think it was, it wasn't. So I was doing dance medicine conferences, big ones here, international. And through that, I mean, they were in Century City. They were very well produced, and pitching Pilates and mentioning it to all of the assembled audience, and all of us in the dance medicine, East Coast, West Coast, even London came. And through that, Dr. Garrick from San Francisco, who is the St. Francis Hospital doctor for the San Francisco Ballet, heard me. I was speaking, but they saw Michael and I do a demonstration of the machine, and he hired us on the spot. We were able to put the work into St. Francis Hospital. That was the first time the work, Pilates, got into a hospital. Joe didn't even accomplish that. That's Joe Pilates, which really stabbed him in the heart, because he had all documentation of how he has rehabbed people, but they didn't let him in then. So the first work went in there. Also, California Institute of the Arts hired me to teach there at the dance, with the dance department. So that was huge too. That opened, and we actually hired a lot of people from Cal Arts to sort of start teaching for Michael and I. So that was a biggie. So the name sort of went on out, even when Ron left the studio. I mean, Ron was there for the opening of St. Francis and everything, but it was Michael and I that instigated it. So it opened up even more to the dance world, as the stars weren't getting that much press in the 80s coming to us. But it threw a thread to the other studios too, because we still did get press. We were in Cosmopolitan and in Vogue magazine. And, you know, we were still getting our articles out, where New York was not. So, you know, the world still had Pilates named front and center. So it gave a lifeline to us.
And tell us, Diane, about the book. How did Ron come up with the idea for the book? Was it a suggestion to him? I know that you were instrumental in putting the book together and managing the photo shoot. So just give us, to tell us about the history of the book.
I think someone approached Ron. This is when he was at his hottest, and he was getting all the press, and he was on TV, and he did stints on TV. I forgot his name. Anyway, you know the clip, you know, where Ron, you know, gets on and has his, you know, breathometer and everything. I forgot his name. Anyway.
He was on the Phil Donahue show.
Phil Donahue, thank you. So we have a lot of press and little, you know, NBC, little news, local news and everything. So Ron was forefront. So they approached him to write the book. And Ron, of course, accepted. It was a big deal. It was mid-70s. And he hired, he didn't hire me. I didn't get paid for it. But that's the way the dance in the world with Ron works. Delighted to do it. So Barbara Wilson was a photographer. We're still her best friends to this day. We set up, we broke through the studio. There was a storage thing. We broke through that. And we were able to open up a bigger space where we held our classes. Ron started his floor work. So that was where we staged the photo shoots. And Ron and I conferred what exercises we wanted to do. That was hard to do. There was so much material. So we had to get it cohesive enough, you know. So lots of things we didn't want. Once we got sort of an outline of the exercises, the beginner, intermediate, and advanced, you know, broad, you know, getting who we wanted to be put into the book, the movie stars and the socialites, dancers. Then I directed the photo shoot, as you mentioned. I would just, now they weren't going through the movements. It was like, I'm taking my arm up. All right, hold your arm up, shoulder down, head up, a little to the right, click, and Barbara would click it, you know. Leg up, arabesque, higher, higher, shoulder down, long neck, click, you know. Then I took, once I got the contacts, you know, because we took many shots of each movement, each pose, I would circle what I wanted and put them sequentially, took a little, you know, little tiny scissor and cut out all of the pictures, paste boarded. It's old school, you know, with rubber glue. And then I wrote the instructions next to each photo and laid that out. Flew to New York and showed him the layout, lip and cut. And it was a big deal. It was a big deal. Yeah, it was wonderful. And it was called Everybody is Beautiful. It's still relevant today. Yeah, that's it.
We plan to republish it. It's
oh, yay.
Yeah, yeah. So that's
excellent.
Let's see. What else should what do you think that Ron would think about the way Pilates is going today? Just the plethora of reformer classes and Legree studios, and what do you think he would say? I know what he would say.
Oh, he wouldn't go for it. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's not personal enough. It's just to you know. Oh, let me go. Let me just get on my high horse right now.
Please do. Please.
Speaking of Ron and
Dear.
what he would say, I want to say this emphatically. Ron Fletcher granted his name to only one studio, and that's Fletcher Pilates in Tucson. Kyria Sabin, right here, was anointed by Ron to continue his legacy. No one else. Hear me? I mean, no one else was granted that name. Now, when you think of it today, is there a Romana Pilates? No. Was there a Kathy Grant Pilates? No. You know, Lolita Pilates? No. No one granted their name to a studio, even in the big legacy people, all right? Only Ron granted Fletcher Pilates to use it. If any other studio uses Ron's name, they're an imposter. So what do I think of Ron now? This is what I think. He gave you and Fletcher Pilates the only use to his name. No one else should be using his name. I studied with him. I took many classes with him. I taught for him, but even the people that taught at the studio when Carol Monaco left and opened up her studio, she goes by the name of Monaco Studios. Risa Shepherd worked in the studio. She was the youngest of our teachers. Her studio is the Shepherd method. Okay? So if anybody uses the Ron Fletcher name in their title as their moniker, I'm not, I almost cursed. Okay, yeah, don't do it.
I'll clarify that, Diane. I appreciate you bringing that up. Anyone can say that anyone who's a graduate of our school can say that they're a Fletcher Pilates teacher, that they studied the Ron Fletcher work.
That's different.
And so it's, yeah, there has been some confusion recently. So,
Oh, has there?
yeah.
Of course you studied on the, absolutely, absolutely. But to use his name as the title of his studio, no.
Well, I want to hear a little bit about you today, just your life today and what your workout is and how you stay in shape and your cookbook collection and just, what keeps you going today?
Well, you got to keep moving every day.
Mhm.
And I want to say too, I don't like to move. I think I'm very normal. I'm not really a whack job. But I know I'm 79, darlings. So it was always imperative to move, and of course I have a lifetime of moving, so I kept it up. I know that the COVID got in the way, the fires, this and that, but you always get back on the horse and you always do your routine. I stay in shape. I do the mat work, the classic mat. Not like I do my own Diane or Ron workout. I have to take myself. So I go through, I don't do 35 anymore, but I pretty much do 20 to 25 of the classic in order of the mat. I really do it. I really do. So I do that. I don't do any aerobics. I hate to walk. You can't get me to walk. I'm not going in no pool, all right? So pretty much I like a nice, solid wood floor. I write a little bit of mat now. I still have a callus on my upper back from doing rolling like a ball. I'll show you one day, Kira, you're gonna laugh. So I actually do that. It's kept me in excellent shape. And clean bill of health from my doctor. So, and my doctor, who's been with me for a long time, he is impressed with my shape and attributes it to doing the Ron Fletcher work, Pilates, as he knows it, And yeah, he's pretty impressed. I get my annual checkup, nothing wrong with me, blah blah blah. Yeah.
Well, and you also do machine a couple of times a week, don't you?
I try.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that feeling.
I mean, this is a really tiny house. This is it. I live in 1,000 square feet. Yeah, in the old days, I mean, when I had a studio, I'd get on the machine. Oh, I'd at least do leg and footwork 5 days, 6 days a week, But I mean, my life's a little different now, The machine's great, yeah. And everybody's so fit now, and it's wonderful. I think the arms are getting a little too big with everybody now, though. If I had my own, everybody's pumping iron or something. Whoa, those guns look like fat arms in a blouse. I have a little, aesthetically, I don't like a big upper arm. Just
Hannah, could you unspotlight us?
I'm gonna have a sip of my
And if you're
Coca-Cola.
available to turn your cameras on, Tracy, I don't know I know it's early or late. Hey, Emma, Camilla. So we have Wes is in Phoenix. Claudia's also in Phoenix. Nicole
Hi, everybody.
Boston. Brianna's in Tennessee. Lauren is in California. Akshata's India. Alana's in Texas.
Oh, hi.
Nicole is in Phoenix. Emma's
India.
in Malta.
Malta.
In Brazil, and Tracy's in Australia.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh, aren't I important? International crowd.
Good group.
My goodness. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing this, Kyria. Thank you, my friends. I hope to see you all soon.
Thank you.
God bless. Okay. Bye-bye, everybody. Love you all.